Hello everyone, and welcome to the CircuitPython Weekly for April 20th, 2020. A lot of 20s in there today. This is the time of the week that we get together to talk about everything CircuitPython. CircuitPython is a version of Python that runs on microcontrollers, which are tiny computers. I'm Katney, and I am sponsored by Adafruit to work on CircuitPython. Adafruit is currently the major sponsor of CircuitPython, so consider supporting them by purchasing hardware from adafruit.com or currently from our partner digikey.com. This meeting normally happens at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on Mondays. Please check the CircuitPython channel on Discord for notices of change and links to past meetings as well. We also have a calendar now that has the meetings on there, so if there is, for example, a US holiday, we will sometimes move the meeting and that will be updated to notify you as soon as possible. This meeting is held on Discord, which you can join at adafru.it/discord, and it is held in the CircuitPython chat channel and the CircuitPython voice channel. And this meeting is recorded. So we record the voice channel sound and we record the text from the text channel. So the Discord window is the video, and that is released on YouTube and to podcast services. If you would like to participate, but you'd rather not have your voice recorded, you can participate as text only, either by typing your responses into the chat channel or adding it to the notes doc. There is a notes document that accompanies the meeting where we have everything that we talk about and everyone's status updates and hug reports, and that allows you to read that later if you would rather scrub the video to whatever point you want to get to and watch the things that are most interesting to you. This meeting is held in 5 parts. The first part is community news, which is everything going on in the community in terms of CircuitPython and Python on hardware. The second section is state of CircuitPython, libraries, and Blinky. This is a statistical overview of the entire project where we talk about everything by the numbers to get a view of what's going on outside of what it is we are up to. The next section is hug reports. Hug reports is an opportunity to call people out for doing something good. And it is held in a round robin format where anyone who wants to can give a hug report. We will start with whoever's running the meeting, which today would be me, and go down the list alphabetically, and then loop back to the top and continue through giving everybody an opportunity who would like one. If you are text only or lurking, this is where that is important, so please let us know. If you're lurking, we'll skip over you. If you're text only, I will either read your notes from the notes doc or from the chat channel. The next section is status updates, which is also held as a round robin in the same format. Status updates is an opportunity to take a couple of minutes and talk about what you've been doing since the last meeting and what you'll be doing until the next meeting. It's basically a sync up and also gives other people the opportunity to give you any tips and tricks on something you may be blocked on or something you're working on. If anybody else has any comments on it, it's a good chance to hear those. And the final section is in the weeds, which is for more long form discussions. Those can come out of status updates, or you may already have a good topic for in the weeds. If you do, please post it to the notes document in the weeds section with your name so we can turn it over to you at the end. Or if you're text only, I'll read it off and you can discuss it in the via the chat channel. And that is how this meeting goes. And I think that covers pretty much everything we need to cover. So I will go ahead and take a time code and get started with community news. Lady Ada did 2 Desk of Lady Ada broadcasts this week. The first one with CircuitPython connecting through a cellular modem to a data source and displaying on an OLED screen, and the second one testing out the new Rgb Matrix support. Microsoft Garage announces Device Simulator Express upgrade with Adafruit Clue and Python. The simulator in this VS Code extension now supports Adafruit Clue and the BBC microbit. Microsoft has a group of interns that the project that they were working on was extending the project the last group of interns worked on, which is a CircuitPython, previously with Circuit Playground Express, and now it also supports Clue in a very similar concept to make code, except you are able to use CircuitPython with it, and the simulator then displays whatever it is that you've typed in for your code. This week's Real Python podcast is exploring CircuitPython with Thea Flowers, so check that out. There is code for Conway's Game of Life ported to the Pew Pew M4 with CircuitPython. Adafruit is still submitting hardware to the Open Source Hardware Association and is currently at 46 certified open source hardware projects. And if you have any CircuitPython or Python on hardware news, projects, anything you want to share, please submit a PR or let us know, and we can get it added to the newsletter and share that with all of our almost 8,000, I think, subscribers. We would love to share your project, so please let us know if you have anything that you're interested in sharing. And that is this week's community news. Next up is the state of CircuitPython, the libraries, and Blinky. This is a statistical overview of the project. We'll talk about the project overall, then we'll talk about the core separately, the libraries, and Blinky. This gives us a chance to see what's going on with the project by the numbers, and highlight just where things are at with the project itself. So overall, we had 27 pull requests merged, and this includes the core and the libraries, by 17 authors. There are, let's see, some new names I don't recognize or who are fairly recent. Zobs is recent, Farrowin, Lars KS, Sanderch, Joe Haloon, F. Gervais, and TGS are names that I don't recognize. So thank you to our newer or very new authors, and also to all of the people who are continuing to contribute. And we had 9 reviewers this week. In terms of issues, we had 11 closed issues by 8 people and 19 opened by 15 people. So we are net up, but that is an excellent number. Having that many people involved in filing issues is always good. It means that we have a lot of people contributing, so that is good to see. Overall, we currently have only a stable release of CircuitPython, and things are going well with that. We haven't had any major issues that I'm aware of. And we are working towards a beta release of the next version very soon. There are some new features and new support that's been added, and we're looking to get that out fairly quickly for people to start testing. In terms of the libraries, I have been going through a lot of issues and getting things up to the standards that we typically try to keep everything to. And it's been going really well. We have now a list on circuitpython.org/contributing that is a far more useful set of information than we've ever had before. So that's definitely good. And I think overall everything has been going very well. So with that, I will turn it over to Scott to talk about the core.
Hello, thank you, Kattni. On the court side, we had 2 pull requests merged from 2 different authors, Zobs and Hierophect. 2 reviewers, myself and Hierophect. We have 9 open pull requests, pretty typical for us in lifespan and stuff as well. Issues-wise, we had 4 closed issues by 2 people and 9 open by 7 people, so we're net up 5 issues for a total of 280 open issues. We have a link in the notes to checking those out. We have 6 active milestones. We're not paying super close attention to those right now because we're not super focused on getting a new release out or anything like that because we're pretty up to date. But we do have 8 issues not assigned to milestones, so that's one thing we should be a bit more diligent about, is just classifying things. But overall, as Kattni said, things are going good. So I'll hand it back to her.
Thanks, Scott. Next up is the libraries. We had 23 pull requests merged from 14 authors. Most of the names I called out earlier are in this list, and 8 reviewers. Our oldest merged pull request was 247 days, which is excellent that we are starting to get to some of those older PRs. And ranges down to 0 days, which is also good. We had, and that leaves us with 27 open pull requests right now across all the libraries. We had 6 closed issues by 5 people and 9 open by 8 people, leaving us with 178 open issues. If you would like to see all of this information, you can go to circuitpython.org/contributing, where you will find all of the open issues for the libraries, all of the open PRs, and a list of library infrastructure issues. If you're looking to contribute to CircuitPython, it's an excellent place to start. You can go through, see if you find an issue that speaks to you, see if you find something that is labeled a good first issue, for example, if that is your experience level, and check it out. And if you need some help, let us know. We are absolutely happy to get you started. We had 1 new library in the last 7 days, which is Adafruit, CircuitPython, BitBang, IO, and a number of updated libraries, the list of which I will not read, but you can check that out in the notes doc. And now I will turn it over to Melissa to talk about Blinky.
Hello. Let's see here. I'm going to read about Blinky, which is our CircuitPython compatibility layer, Raspberry Pi, and other single board computers. In the last week, we had 2 pull requests merged by 2 authors and 2 reviewers. There are 0 open pull requests at this time. There was 1 closed issue by 1 person and 1 open by 1 person, leaving a net total of 38 open issues. And there have been 2,196 PI downloads in the last week. We currently are supporting 44 boards, which is 1 more than we had last week.
Excellent.
And that's it.
Thanks, Melissa.
Yeah.
All right. And that is the state of CircuitPython, the libraries, and Blinky. Next up is Hug Reports. Hug Reports is a chance to call people or groups of people or whomever you are interested in recognizing for something good. Not enough of this happens, so we always try to do this every week. It's our counter to bug reports, as we like to say. This section is held in a round-robin format where I will start and then go down the list alphabetically and give everyone who wants to the opportunity to give bug reports. If you are lurking, let us know and we will skip you. If you are text only, feel free to add your notes to the notes doc, and I will read them off as I would normally get to you in the list. Sometimes there are notes from people who are not present in the meeting, and I will read those off alphabetically as well. And I think that about covers it, so I will go ahead and get started. First, a hug report to Summersoft for getting the circuitpython.org/contributing library infrastructure issues list far more useful. To Carter for adding UART support to the AS726X library. To Jeff for a lovely chat. And to everyone assisting others on Discord, thank you for continuing to make this a supportive, positive community. And next we have Lurker, and so next is Maker Melissa.
Hello. Let's see. I wanted to start with a hug report to you, Kattni, for your help with getting GitHub Actions added on a couple of the repos. One to Yeato2788 for help with testing the BitBang.io library that I wrote. And a hug report to Cater for your help with figuring out my microphone situation with testing your PR. And a group hug.
Excellent. Next up, I have notes for Mark, who says a hug report to CircuitPython for keeping me occupied during this insane world. Excellent. And next up is Summersoft.
Hello. So I have hug report to Adafruit for the uptick in the desk of Lady Ada and to Tannewt for the last couple of weeks. From his streams, watching dev iteration is pretty awesome. Hug report to Kattni, again, like last week, for pushing on the library infrastructure issues and pushing me to fix some of the things that Adabot wasn't actually handling all that well. It's nice to see that list super short. And then everyone who's been helping out in Discord and wherever else I'm not looking, anecdotally, there's been an increase in questions since we've all kind of been shelter in place. So it's been nice to see everybody rise to the occasion. That's it.
Thank you. Next up is Scott.
Hello. First and foremost, a hug report to Marietta and Lucaj for organizing the Python Language Summit. The Python Language Summit is a meeting of core CPython devs and core folks in the community of Python in general. Usually it happens like on the first day of PyCon, but because PyCon was canceled, they moved it online really quickly and had that last week, and it turned out really well. So thanks to them for figuring it all out. Next up, thanks to Mark Olson and all of the folks who watched my stream on Friday and helped out. I really appreciate it. Made some progress, even though my brain was definitely not there entirely on Friday because I had a sinus thing. And then lastly, just looking back through the Discord over the last few days, I just wanted to shout out and thank Anecdata, Foamy Guy, Geek Guy, and Anon Engineering for helping folks out in the Help with CircuitPython Discord channel.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
And next up is Andrew.
Yep, just a group hug to all for everybody this.
All right. Thank you. Next up is Charles.
A hug report to Tannewt for those very interesting streams last couple of go-arounds. I really found it interesting to see. And I understand you're not feeling well. Anyway, and also a group hug to everybody, everybody at Adafruit and in this community, because without you guys, I would have gone totally stir crazy. And also to remind everybody, today, the 20th is Earth Day. So have a good Earth Day.
Thanks, Charles. All right. Next up is Dan.
Hello. Thanks to Hierophect Lucian for doing the STM32F7 and 87 ports. It's taken a while and it's a lot of work, but thank you very much. Thanks to Jeff Epler for doing Rgb Matrix, which is really nice. We've already got some nice demos on that. And also thanks to him for considering a name change at the last minute from Protomatter, which is a cute name, but I wasn't sure it was so obvious. And thanks to you, Kattni, for the weekly CircuitPython video, which is working out really great. And it relieves stuff that Phil has to do, and it also makes it great to have more diverse input to the weekly Ask an Engineer. Okay, thank you.
All right. David's lurking. Next up is Deshipu. Unless he's also lurking. No worries. Next I have notes for Dewester, who is lurking but wanted to give a hug report to everyone here, making time for the rest of us. Next I have notes from Foamy Guy, who says text only, having connection trouble. To hug report to Sedacious for helping me understand low-level bit and byte operations better. To Deshipu for submitting a PR to fix RGB BGR colors used on PPU M4 with display IO instead of stage. And to Geek Guy and Anon Engineering for assisting people in the Help with CircuitPython channel. Next up is I have text from Geek Guy, who said the CircuitPython core team for all the hard work they put in to make CircuitPython as awesome as it is. I am always amazed at how fast they bring new stuff online. And to Tannute for another great deep dive. Next up is Hierophect.
So this week, thanks to Scott for his review and helping me submit the F7 and H7 port. Thanks to Dan for helping answer some questions over this past week. And thanks to Mark Olson for his recent submission for the F746, following right on the heels of the F7 general infrastructure port to add support for the F746 Nucleo board for STM32. So thank you, Mark.
All right, excellent. Next up is Jeff. And apparently I scared him away. Jerry, you want to go ahead and then, oh, hold on. Jeff, you there?
All right, how about now?
That's good to go.
All right, well, thanks, Kenny, for running the meeting, and a group hug to everybody. We need it right now. Thanks to Lamore for highlighting my work in a video this weekend. Thanks to Anne for helping me out with the guide. Thanks to Scott for sticking with me through the review process. And thanks, Kenny, for chatting last week. It was fun.
You're very welcome. All right, next up is Jerry.
Yeah, just a big group hug to everybody.
Excellent. All right, and that is hug reports. Thank you, everyone. Next up is status updates, and for that, I'm going to hand it over to Jeff.
Hopefully my client doesn't crash again. So last week was basically spent on Rgb Matrix, formerly known as Proto-Matter, as Dan mentioned. The code is merged, the guide is live, but this week there's some more cleanups and at least one more example that we want to add to the guide. The simplest guide was a text scroller, but I made it fancy, and Lamore wants something that is much more basic. And another change is to comment the guide code better. And in fun stuff, my former project Linuxcnc, an open source control for CNC mills and lathes, has kind of picked back up. So I've been pitching in there lately with bug fixes and stuff. Oh, Kattni reminds me I didn't explain what status updates are. They're just like what I did, a report on what you did last week, what you hope to do this week, and then if you want some fun stuff that you've been up to outside of CircuitPython. And with that, I'll hand it over to Jerry.
There's the mute button. Boy, the order is different now today. Not used to not going last. Kathy's running. Let's see. So last week, finally got the long-standing PR for the RFM69 merged and released. Yay! And the RFM9X version of the same thing is in review. Hopefully someday somebody with the hardware will get a chance to test it out. And did a little bit of troubleshooting. There was a report that came from I remember how it got filed. I think Somersault put the issue in that the AM2320 library was broken on CircuitPython hardware. I found out, I confirmed that it indeed was, but it does work on Raspberry Pi hardware. So there was a change made a while back that basically uses some CPython stuff that's perfectly okay, but isn't implemented in CircuitPython, so it doesn't work on the CircuitPython boards. So I'm not quite sure what the status of that is and it needs to probably be reverted back, but I'm not quite sure who's doing that, if anybody, at this point. But it was a really good example of why testing is a good idea. And let's see. I spent most of the week helping a fun project was diagnose and hopefully we've got a fix ready now, or we fixed part of it. One of the projects I worked on professionally prior to my retirement is a satellite that's on orbit, and it's about 100,000 miles out. And one of the experiments had a little anomaly. So we were able to diagnose, test, and come up with a fix. And it's nice to see all that fault-tolerant hardware and software actually coming together. Kind of fun to be part of. And at 5 o'clock today, we'll find out for sure if it works. And next week, I'm building a woodshed. Doesn't probably involve any CircuitPython.
Thanks, Jerry.
Yeah.
I think if you were comfortable doing it, you could sure open a PR to revert that change.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with the changes that were made or the reverting process. So I could take a look, but it's probably also not, it may take me a little while to get to it.
All right, well, if you want to give it a
If
try,
anyone else is
just
anxious
have-
for it or
we'll
wants to
walk you
jump in
through
and
it.
do it, that's fine. If it's still lingering when I can look at it, I'll definitely take a look.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Moving on to you, Kattni.
All right. So last week, completed working through most of the library infrastructure issues that can be worked through. Worked with Summersoft to get the lib infrastructure issues list tightened up into a far more useful set of information. Tested and merged a few PRs. Started going through GitHub issues list across all the libraries. Closing if possible, poking where necessary. If you have an open issue on a library, you may see some activity on that soon. I submitted a PR to update the sound meter code in the Circuit Playground library to work with Circuit Playground Bluefruit and received some feedback on how I did that, and we'll be doing it differently. This week, incorporate that feedback into my Circuit Playground PR and finish that up. If I can find the hardware, I'll be testing the AS726 UART PR. I'm going to continue working through library GitHub issues, check on my GitHub assignments, and test any other tagged PRs and so on that come through. If you have an issue open and it's something you need some kind of help with or whatever, feel free to tag me, as that is what I'm currently doing. There's no particular order in which I'm doing them, so I can easily prioritize, if possible anyway, something if it's needed. So let me know, and that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Kattni. King of North is lurking, so we'll go to you, Maker Melissa.
Hello. So last week I wrote a SPI module in Python for boards that need bit-bang SPI but don't have the built-in bit-bang IO modules, such as single board computers, but could be run on the CircuitPython boards as well. I finished up adding the Onion Omega 2 Plus to Blinky. Added GitHub Actions to the Adafruit Python Pure IO and Circuit libraries. I tested an I2S PR that Cater wrote. I tested a pull request for capacitive touch that he wrote as well, and I added a few more boards to CircuitPython.org. And I've worked on adding this week I'm going to be adding GitHub Actions to the platform Detect and Blinky libraries, and I'm going to work on adding the RockPy. And for fun stuff, I started editing some videos from our YouTube channel about a 3D printer build. I'm also playing some new games on my Switch. And that's it.
I feel like I'm the only person with a Switch who hasn't picked up new games in the middle of this thing.
Oh, well.
All right. Mark Olson is lurking because his mic is broken. So last week, he started to learn what the project is about, did a Nucleo F746G port, which works fine. It's in PR review. The Discovery F476ZG port, USB CDC/MSC works fine. I2C tested fine. Touch works fine, but it's not ready for a PR. This week, he ordered an ESP32S2 board and will start helping Tanut when it arrives. The Discovery F476GZ port, external SD-RAM, and LTDC graphics controller, and he wants us to know he's open to be assigned some issues. And for fun stuff, he designed a PCB, first ever, and sent it off to China to be made. I plan to make another one this week that will support CircuitPython. Mr. Certainly is lurking, so I'll hand it off to you, Summersoft.
Hello again. So last week for Adabot, I incorporated the new setup.py.disabled standard into the associated validators for checking libraries against PyPI and checking requirements.txt information. Basically, it avoids or ignores those if setup.py.disabled is there. Push those changes to circuitpython.org so that they're reflected there as well. For RosiePi, so I finished the node to the PhysicCI data flow. The GitHub checks are now updated when the node finishes the test, and then the full log and information is put into PhysicCI. I've got a short demo on YouTube. It needs some work. It was the first time using OBS and some post-production, so I'll try and get better at that. After that, I worked through some reconfigurations of having GCC ARM embedded installed. It's still hitting a snag. I just pushed a new configuration to the Raspberry Pi. Hopefully I can test it after I go back on mute. And then for the core last week, I tried to dig into the frequency in issue where it's returning only zeros on 5X. I couldn't replicate it on a Metro M4 Express, but I did verify that the low power changes still worked. The reported issue was on a Grand Central, which I don't have, so I ordered one from DigiKey. That was it for this past week. So for this coming week, for Adabot, I'm going to look into allowing example files to include an underscore in the name. Kattni brought this up to me last week with the example of the Adafruit IO library. So the validator expects it to have, because the repository is named without an underscore, it's expecting Adafruit IO underscore simple test. But she mentioned that the way that they're named currently is Adafruit underscore IO underscore simple test, with that being much easier to read than the non-underscore version. So I mocked up a way to do it just in CPython. I just need to get it into Adabot and then kind of review any problems that might come with CircuitPython build tools. I don't think there will be any, but I just wanted to check it in case. For frequency in, hopefully my Grand Central comes in. If nothing else, I can figure out if we need to handle pins that don't work correctly. And then for RosiePi, I'll just keep pushing on getting the firmware to build and progress to the next step. And then keep looking into using and changing to use either PyTest or unit test to write and run the test for each board or each thing on the board. I looked at PyTest this week, and using their fixtures looks like it might be pretty useful. So that's all I got.
Thanks, Summersoft. Scott is next.
Hello. Last week I was pretty busy, had some huge reviews to do and tests. So Protomatter and H7, F7 PRs are nearly done done. So I should have a clearer week this week. I also had the Python Language Summit, which was 8 days worth of stuff. So, or not 8 days, 8 hours of stuff on 2 different days, 4 hours a piece. So that kind of broke up everything as well. So I got back to the ESP32S2 on Friday. My brain was not like super with me, but I did the stream anyway. This week, my goal is to get through email reviews and my lower power stuff as fast as I can, so that I can spend as much time as possible on the ESP32S2 this week. Probably chatting with Mark about that as well, because he was super helpful during my stream. And there's a link to my stream. I'll post a link to my stream too. For the USB fever sensor stuff, I've handed that off to Lamore, so that won't distract me this week either. And then on the fun side, still playing some Age of Empires 2, which is just awesome. And I've been playing with that with some folks, so that's been really fun. And then I did a number of like super simple PCB breakouts. As you know, I'm trying to do this like key matrix interception stuff with these old piano keyboards, and so I made a breakout for like logic level, like a buffer chip. I made a breakout for like sticking like eight pull-up resistors in a row on a breadboard, because like the key matrices are either high Z or low, so they need pull-ups. And then the last one I did was a breakout for a serial in parallel out shift register. If folks are interested in that, you could check out my Chickadee Tech GitHub, is where I put all of my PCB files. So if you want to kind of follow along with what I've been doing there, and if you see anything that you want to actually order yourself, just let me know, and I've been meaning to link to the shared projects on Oshpark, but I've been bad about it. Yeah, so this week is I've also been playing Animal Crossing, I should say that. This week is primarily ESP32S2. One thing I do want to do is I'm going to check in with Sean with Zobs, because he's doing some a device for contact tracing that I think is going to run CircuitPython. So I just want to check in with him as well. And yeah, I'm enjoying being in debt. I'm currently playing the stock market. I bought like, I don't know, 300,000 bells worth of turnips yesterday, so I'm keeping an eye on it. So yeah, that is Animal Crossing in
Did you see that someone has reverse engineered the random number generator for the stock market?
No, but I'm okay with that.
Well, look for it or don't.
Yeah, I did pretty well. I bought below 100 last week, and I sold over 160, so I was pretty happy. So nice. I'm hoping for the same thing this week, but it's the stock market. Anything can happen.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about handing off the 5.3.0 beta, or are you going to get to that like next week? Put it off a week or what?
I guess you're waiting for it, right? So if you want to do one to get the proto matter stuff out, that's totally cool with me. I just I don't want us to go. I don't want to go release candidate until lower powers in as well, because I just want to have all those together.
Okay. I would like to have it out today, so if that's fine with you, I'll put that on my plate. We're calling it beta?
Yeah, that's what I would do. Just
all
beta
right.
5.3 beta 0. And I mean, do we think this is probably, we could move this to the weeds too, but do we actually want to do a 5.3 stable and then low power could be 5.4? Would that be better?
I don't have a strong opinion off the top of my head, so if you want to take it down to the weeds, we sure can.
Yeah, why don't we just talk about it there?
All right. Well, then we'll loop back up to you, Andrew.
Yep. Last week, I continued development of the little WS2811 based LED strip breakout board that I was working on for some time now. It's just a little board that will convert a WS2811 NeoPixel driver into an actual dumb LED strip hookup, so that I can make a little they're daisy chained hexagon 3D printed lights. So it's kind of a cool project, but as we'll talk about in fun stuff, my printer has been getting re-engineered a little bit, so kind of fell off the wagon there. This week, with us headed into tornado season, I'm going to go ahead and try to pair one of my previous projects involving consuming the National Weather Service's Alerts API and make a small PyPortal-based weather radio that'll just display the text and maybe some color coding for whatever watches or warnings happen to be for your area. And then in fun stuff, kind of related to last week, I've been re-engineering the hot end on my 3D printer to accommodate a 2-in, 1-out print nozzle. So it takes 2 filaments in, but extrudes them out of the same nozzle. And yeah, that's everything for me.
Cool. I would love to see a photo of that when it's done. We've got a couple of lurkers, so that brings us to Charles Burnaford.
Yes. Last week I finally got my the keyboard matrix working, Tanut, and it's from an old mini Oxygen 8 keyboard, and it really is nice. Now I got to figure. The only thing I haven't figured out is how to take advantage of the velocity sensitivity. Right now, I'm just using it as if it was a organ keyboard, and that's really about all I've gotten through. And I'm going to continue working on it. I'm going to try to see if I can get a velocity sensitivity working on that keyboard. It's a lot more difficult than I thought it was. Anyway, have a good one, everybody.
Well, that's a big step forward. Congratulations.
Finally.
Yeah.
It took me long enough.
All right, Dan, what do you got?
Okay, so I've been working mostly on, as you know, we have this Bluetooth Playground app for iOS, and there's also a version for Android that someone else has written that lets you control things on a Bluetooth Playground or a Clue over Bluetooth. And we don't have a CircuitPython version of that code. So I'm working on that both on the client and the server side. So we can write a CircuitPython version of the Arduino program that currently is used in the demo. And I've gotten that mostly working. One thing that it pointed out was that we had some issues with some low-level stuff in the Bluetooth implementation, which I'm trying to fix first when I try to send data to the board rather than receive it. So I'm fixing that, and there'll be a pull request for CircuitPython soon for that. And when I get done with this, which should only be in a few days, then I'm going to start looking at the Bleak system, which is Python-based at the user level for to be able to implement _BLEIO on a host computer under Blinky, so that we can start doing Bluetooth stuff on the host computers using the CircuitPython code as we do with every other Blinky thing. So that's going to be the next thing to try. We're not sure how well it will work, but it's worth trying. Okay.
Cool. We have a couple of lurkers, and then we have Foamy Guy, who is text only. He writes that he's working on testing SPI bit/bits PR for the register library, converted the Raspberry Pi NeoPixel animation example to allow animations based on subsets of the strip and playing multiple animations simultaneously, and made progress on the tile game guide over the weekend. Indexed bitmap graphics page is nearly completed. Foamy Guy is also text only. He writes that he's been helping out people on Discord as much as he can and absorbing as much new information as he can as fast as he can so he can help people better. And now Hierophect.
So this past week, I was working on a bunch of stuff related to the F7 and H7 port. It's been submitted now, so that's all in. But before it was submitted, I made my way through the bus.io implementations, the memory implementations, solving a bunch of kind of compatibility bugs, and a couple of build issues that kind of cropped up right at the last minute. But that's all, for the most part, been wrapped up at this point. I reviewed Mark Wilson's new F746 nuclear PR this morning, which is cool. Sounds like he is interested in checking out some of the external RAM types stuff and screens and other things that are a little trickier for our priorities, since we're trying to get the IMX port and a bunch of other stuff out. But would be really cool to see, and so I'm very excited to see what he explores. Let's see. And last week I also finished an early version of a personal project called Expression Engine, which is a goofy project that makes cute eyes for robots. Post a little thing in the channel. But that was it, just in the PR process when things were slow. I got to work on that a little bit. So it's in a good spot now. This week, I'll be doing some minor revisits to the F7 and H7 port for STM32, particularly when it comes to RAM support. Supporting tightly coupled memory, ITCM and DTCM, for those chips, for the F7 in particular, so it can get some better speed. I'll be adding support to the OpenMV board for the H743. Getting the actual camera module running on that board, which is the most exciting part of it, is unfortunately probably going to be a little bit trickier than just plopping pin support in CircuitPython. But it'll be a first step, at least, to getting some of the exciting capabilities that board has supported in CircuitPython. And then I'll be kind of moving into other things. So I'll be working a little bit on the documentation for STM32, adding in a better README, helping out to just make it easier to support or to make new PRs for new boards and new features in the STM32 port. Because I'm going to be moving over a little bit to IMX, working on the issue list for that, working on the kind of internals there. A lot of that port kind of had some inspiration from the STM32 structure. But since it got started, there's been a bunch of structural changes, particularly in how the IMX, or particularly in how like pins are handled, and some of the kind of structural stuff, structural improvements that can be brought over. So that will be consuming my life for the foreseeable future. And then fun stuff, I'm also working on some servo code for a specific brand of servo motor on CircuitPython, and I'm hoping to kind of get a test of that going this week on a little walking robot that I've had forever, so I can stick my Expression Engine eyeballs on it, so I can have a little cute robot guy to hang out with me in quarantine while we're all trapped in our houses. Okay, so yeah, that's it for me.
We're going to expect a photograph of this rocking robot dude, or better yet, a video. That brings us all the way back through the list, so it's time for In the Weeds. I'll let you show us, Kattni.
All right, thank you, Jeff.
Take over.
All right, In the Weeds is our opportunity for more long-form discussions that either are just something you come up with or come out of status updates, which we have 2 topics, one of each category there. So the first thing I will do is turn it over to Dan to talk about his topic.
So I've asked this internally, and I thought I would ask the people here also. In order to do the Adafruit service work, it turns out I have to fix some aspects of an internal ring buffer that's used for a bunch of purposes. One is for hardware UART, and one is for BLE UART, and also for packet buffer, which is actually the fix that I need. And this ring buffer lets you read some characters, write some characters, read some characters. Right now, if you try to write characters and the ring buffer is already full, then it will overwrite the old characters. So it's kind of a limited FIFO queue. That's actually really bad for packet buffer, the way we use the ring buffer. So I was thinking of just changing it so instead of overwriting old characters, it would just drop any characters that hadn't been read yet when writing, so that you would keep the oldest characters and any surplus new characters to get dropped. In either case, you're going to lose characters. It's just sort of whether you lose them from the front or the back of the queue. And I was wondering if anyone has anything to say about, oh, that would break my code, or actually that would be better for me, or something like that, with respect to hardware UART or BLE UART.
Does it do it silently?
It will return. I'm trying to remember if it returns. I think it may return how many characters it actually succeeded in writing. So you could check to see that it's messing up.
Okay, that's good. Otherwise,
yeah, otherwise it's bad. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think go for it. That's
Okay.
That's how Unix works.
It drops the newest. It leaves the oldest characters.
Yeah.
I think right. It was rather arbitrary when we made this decision, and it seemed kind of bad both ways. So I think I'll just change it then. And if there's more of an expectation, I think it's a little more obvious when the buffer just fills up and you have to drain it for new things to come in, rather than you mysteriously getting, if you read the whole string, you'd get some new characters followed by some older characters, which is really odd. So if you read it as a whole string. All right, thank you. Thanks for the comments. Anybody else?
I was gonna say just make sure with packet buffer that it happens at the packet boundaries.
Yeah.
It will. That's what's good. That's what's going to go on here. Is that, in fact, it will probably not. It'll see if there's room first. I'm going to make packet buffer check to see whether there's room.
Right.
Charles, could you mute? You're getting echo from you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thanks for fixing it.
Next up is Scott and Jeff, the discussion about 5.3.0.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm happy to do a beta this week, and the question is whether we go to final with or without low power.
Well, I think low power is going to break some stuff. Like it's just like super core.
Yeah.
So it's probably worth, if you just do 5.3 as Rgb Matrix and H7 F7 and just do it as an RC, and then we can either branch and stabilize or just stabilize and then I think it makes sense to get that more stable. It's really the low power stuff that worries me, that I don't want to go stable super quick.
Okay.
But it would be good to get your stuff out.
Yeah, I think the overall chance of destabilizing stuff is low with the changes that we have right now, so we could probably go direct to release candidate. I'd want to look over stuff again before saying that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I would expect, and I would do that just because, prior to 5, we've really been bad about getting stuff actively out really quickly. But I think that if changes are low risk, and in particular just adding new APIs like this, like it doesn't make sense to gate them behind something like low power that needs more time to mature and stabilize.
Okay, well then I'll probably target that for the second half of the week. Try and get it out Thursday, hopefully, and Friday otherwise.
Stable at the end of the week? Or the release candidate?
The release candidate?
I thought you were ready to push something today.
Well, the more wants me to do more work on the guides, and I was going to do that first.
Okay.
The Rgb Matrix guide. She wants a new example and some other changes and commenting. So I was just going to do that first, so that's already on Wednesday. But having the release candidate on Wednesday would be nice too, because then the guide will say go download the release candidate, not the absolute newest.
Right.
Yeah, I'll try to get it done, the release candidate, today or tomorrow, and then the final at the end of the week.
Yeah, or a stable next week. I think what you could do is like get all the changes to the guides done, and then there will be a lag for moderation, and in that lag you can do the release.
All right, yeah, I just want to have the best stuff ready for Wednesday and not miss another set of deadlines.
Yeah, I mean, you're close. And if you need it, Dan or I can do the release too.
All right.
Like, it shouldn't take more than an hour or two.
No, unless GitHub Actions decides to rain on our parades again.
That's true.
Do we have any insight into what was going on last Thursday and Friday?
Not that I know of.
GitHub Actions?
No, I submitted a ticket and I asked in the forum, and I got not any help really. One person said, "Oh yeah, we'll just try canceling and rerunning."
Yeah, I kept canceling, and once it was canceled, there was no rerun button, which I know other people have reported, and I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't. I made a really clear issue, and I've gotten no response.
Yeah, I'm sure they're working as hard as they can, and
Yeah.
they have stuff we don't know about.
Right.
Well, I think the issue with cancel is that cancel doesn't actually cancel. Like, there's still jobs that are queued up or something, right? Like,
yeah, in the API, unless the entire suite the conclusion gets labeled as canceled or failed, the rerun button won't show up.
Right, but
Also
they had changed to calling canceled things neutral, and so then there was nothing that was failed.
Yeah, neutral won't show up either.
I've had issues where only one thing in the whole run is kind of canceled for no reason.
Right.
And then you try to cancel the rest of it, and it has trouble like fully canceling it. I think we had that issue on the 743 issue just this morning, and the only thing that could fix it was a rebase.
Yeah. So, Dan, you emailed them. Have you heard anything back from that?
No, that opened a real ticket.
Okay.
And then I also posted the same thing in the support forums, and it was I just got the rerun suggestion, and I haven't heard anything more there.
Because I do follow, like, I've had some interactions with Chris Patterson on Twitter, who I think might be like the PM for Actions. And if we need to, I can try to post.
I can forward you the ticket number. I'll do that. Okay.
Because it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
and we do pay them. We don't pay them a ton, but like, we do pay them. So I don't feel that bad about being like, you have a CI, but it's super unreliable. Like, why should we be using your CI if it can't handle it?
Right.
And, yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were done.
I was just gonna say that I wish that there was a good way to see the limits, like on concurrent jobs and stuff, because like it might be that is having some adverse reaction to it as well. Like, it's weird that like it always, like, I saw 2 separate PRs that got to like 62 and then they just died. Like 62 passed and then.
Right. I was wondering if they actually put in some new rate limiting when they lowered the prices, and they didn't tell anybody about it or something. So
And
62 is really weird, but yeah.
Yeah, there's not like a dashboard that says like, oh, you hit your limit. Like,
no.
Like, there's no global view of like the jobs that you have queued up.
Agreed. The dashboard would be nice. And I just now thought of this when I mentioned the API. So you can access all of that through the REST API. So if there are jobs that aren't clearing hurdles or whatever because they get marked as neutral, we can dig through, as long as we have the ID numbers, you can force them into a particular state through the API. So if anybody needs any help with that, I'm willing to venture down that path.
Cool.
All right. Sounds like we're good to go. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. This has been the CircuitPython Weekly for April 20th, 2020. This meeting was recorded and will be released on YouTube and also on podcasts. And so if you find it's not on your favorite podcast service, please let us know so we can try and fix that. Thank you to everyone who participated. We will be here again next Monday, I believe. And hopefully we will see all of you there, and hopefully some new people as well. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.